Cory Sandhagen versus Frankie Edgar takes place this weekend on the co-main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 18, Overeem versus Volkov, and I can't wait for this potential title elimination bout at Bantamweight. We've got a little bit of uncertainty right now in the Bantamweight division, but this one this weekend is a huge one, and the winner could be looking at a title shot next for themselves. Of course, we've also got TJ Dillashaw coming back soon. If he wins a bout, is he going to get a title shot next over the winner of this one? You've got Aldo looking for a bout to get him towards that title shot. You've got Cody Garbrandt. Now that they're going to do Figueiredo versus Moreno 2 in the flyweight division, is Cody Garbrandt going to not go to flyweight and try and make another run at bantamweight? Whatever the case is, the winner of this one's going to be in a good position. I feel like this mainly comes down to who wins out of Yan versus Sterling, because if Aljamain Sterling wins and Cory Sandhagen wins, I don't know if they're going to replay that fight just because of the first round submission. It was a very clear and dominant win. However, Aljamain Sterling used the cage to climb up onto Cory Sandhagen's back. Either way, it was a very dominant win. It's going to be very hard to sell that rematch so quickly after it just happened. So I think if Cory Sandhagen wants his title shot, he better be praying and hoping that Petr Yan gets the job done. But Yan wants TJ Dillashaw. Either way, we're talking about Cory Sandhagen versus Frankie Edgar. Grappler in Frankie Edgar, older guy, veteran, has taken his damage, now trying things out in a new division of bantamweight. You've got Cory Sandhagen, the taller, rangier striker, younger as well, 28 years of age compared to Frankie Edgar's 39. I mean, they are literally over a decade apart in age during this fight. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think of that, but Frankie Edgar still doing the damn thing at 39. He's got them Glover Teixeira genes in his bones. Credit to Frankie Edgar, man. 39 years of age, looking for a title elimination bout in the bantamweight division. I never thought I'd be saying that after I saw him got KO'd against the Korean Zombie, but either way, he eked past Pedro Munoz. I thought Munoz won that fight so clearly, but I'm going to ignore it for the sake of this video and just blindly say that Edgar sneaks past the decision against Pedro Munoz so I can try and give him some kind of advantage here against Cory Sandhagen. I do believe that Cory Sandhagen's going to go out there and get the job done against Edgar pretty easily. He's got 3 rounds to do it. I think that's a very good thing, especially because Edgar is a guy who likes to grind on you, get the takedowns, wear people down, come through in the later rounds to get the job done. Cory Sandhagen having 3 rounds here is going to be very nice for him in his own mental space, knowing that he doesn't have to go 25 minutes with Frankie Edgar and knowing that he can exert a lot of energy if he needs to stuff those first few takedowns rather than conserve himself. I like Cory Sandhagen in this bout. One thing I don't like, however, is the odds. And I'm going to sound a little bit like Greta Thunberg here, but how dare you? How dare you? How dare they make the odds for Cory Sandhagen a 4-1 favourite over Frankie Edgar? Don't get me wrong, I understand Cory Sandhagen being a bit of a favourite, but this is just absolutely criminal. I don't see a way Frankie Edgar wins this one either, but I'm admitting that there's a chance that Edgar goes out there and gets the job done. This should not be the widest odds on the card. This should not be wider odds than Cody Stamann versus Andre Ewell, which is basically the knockoff version of this bout, except Stamann's the favourite and Ewell is Cory Sandhagen in this example. But I think Cory Sandhagen gets the job done over Frankie Edgar. He's taller, he's rangier, he showed a lot of improvements in his last few fights. He seemed against Marlon Moraes the best he's ever looked, and I feel like that was mainly because of how switched on he was in that bout. I think the main reason why he lost to Aljamain Sterling was because of how loosey-goosey Cory Sandhagen plays the game. He's so loose and relaxed, and a lot of people try and get him down, and he just finds a way to momentum scramble his way out of situations. And I feel like against Aljamain Sterling, he was just like, oh yeah, take my back, I'll just get out of it, fight the choke, and move the body lock. I'm being choked out right now, you know what I mean? He seemed like he was a little bit too calm under the storm and didn't really realise the threat of the fight so far. And seeing that loss to Aljamain Sterling and then him come back against Moraes and look more switched on than ever and very calm, very strategic in what he was doing. He went first against Moraes with the leg kicks to out leg kick him early, which was a very smart idea from Cory Sandhagen. Fight IQ through the roof. He's got a reach advantage here as well over Frankie Edgar, but it's not so much about the reach of 70-inch arms to 68-inch arms for Frankie Edgar. It's just about the length of Cory Sandhagen in general. He uses so many kicks, front kicks, leg kicks, body kicks, question mark kicks, head kicks, wheel kicks, as we saw in his last fight against Moraes. He's got every kick in the book, it feels like. Spinning back kicks as well, amazing ones. That's where the real reach is going to be the difference, in the length of those legs for Cory Sandhagen. I think he's probably going to have like a 10-inch reach advantage in the legs over Frankie Edgar. I mean, he's 5'11", taking on a guy 5'6" or 7, I believe, in Frankie Edgar. 5'6", 5'11". Maybe they're a little bit closer, but still, that's a massive difference to have for a kicker like Cory Sandhagen. I think it's also going to make him very difficult to hold down, because we've seen a lot of guys able to get that initial takedown on Cory Sandhagen, but they haven't been able to keep him there, ever. You've seen this a lot of his fights. Rafael Assunção tried getting him down, got him down a couple of times, but Cory Sandhagen's just so hard to keep there. He's so tall and so gangly all over the place. He's stepping over them, he's attacking the back, he uses things to get on top into better positions for himself. He's got very good scrambles. I think that's going to be a huge effect in this Frankie Edgar bout. I think Edgar will be able to get him down abruptly in moments with maybe a good takedown where Sandhagen barely touches the canvas. I think Sandhagen will work his way back up because we've seen in Frankie Edgar's career recently, those takedowns are getting very, very hard for him to get, and they used to be very easy in his career, because when you look at certain fights, he was able to get down Aldo in the first one. Okay, when he was younger in his prime, then he sort of ekes out of his prime. He's no longer he's no longer able to get down Aldo. Is that because Aldo's takedown defense dramatically improved between the first Edgar fight and the second one? Maybe. Or is it because Edgar kind of slowed down a little bit and those takedowns aren't happening the same way anymore? You look at another fight of Frankie Edgar's career, the Cub Swanson fights. The first Cub Swanson fight, in his prime, closer to his prime anyway, just dominated Cub Swanson over 5 rounds in a grappling exchange. Completely dominated him in that fight. Then you look at the more recent Cub Swanson fight for Frankie Edgar, and it looks like he can't really get Cub Swanson down because he tries many times to do it, 8 times overall. He can't get Cub Swanson down in that fight whatsoever, except for like some one weird moment where I believe Cub Swanson fell to the ground or something like that. But Frankie Edgar couldn't get Cub Swanson down when he could do a couple of years beforehand. Is that Cub Swanson past his own prime, improving his takedown defense to stuff every one of Edgar's takedowns compared to none of them before? No, I feel that that's kind of because of Frankie Edgar slowing down a little bit in his strength, in his speed of the takedown, in how obvious they are when he shoots them. I mean, I remember when Frankie Edgar used to just blast double legs underneath shots and surprise the hell out of people, but now it seems like they're a little bit more telegraphed. He couldn't get down Max Holloway. The only last person he's really taken down and dominated was Yair Rodriguez, but I think also Yair had some good scrambles in that fight, by the way, but eventually he settled on the ground with Edgar and he wasn't really able to do anything. Yair likes to use momentum to defend takedowns in his fights and scramble all over the place and do a bunch of Granby rolls and stuff like that, but in that fight with Frankie Edgar, he eventually settled on the ground in the second round, took his beating, and eventually it got stopped after the bell. It wasn't that bad, though, because we've seen in Yair Rodriguez's career, even against Jeremy Stephens, he went after Stephens early with a bunch of wild stuff, like he usually does. In the grappling, he was defending, but then eventually in the grappling, he starts to tire down. I feel like it's more of a case of Yair Rodriguez's cardio in the grappling, rather than his takedown defense in general, because he did stuff some against Frankie Edgar. I feel like Cory Sandhagen, it's not just about getting him down, it's about even being in the position to get a good takedown on him. I don't see that happening in this fight. Frankie Edgar's a little bit too small. I think Sandhagen's going to be able to keep him at range, pick him apart with the punches, pick him apart with the kicks as well, and just do work over the 3 rounds, which is going to be much easier for Cory Sandhagen. He's got less time. He doesn't have to hold back on his shots like he was probably doing against Marlon Moraes. And if that's a calculated Sandhagen, moving forward, I really like his chances against everyone else in the division. I don't think Edgar is chinny, which is something I want to talk about here, because the fact that the odds are so crazy, it's not really worth it to bet on Cory Sandhagen, in my opinion. So what I would do personally is maybe bet that, you know what, we've got 3 rounds. Moraes is kind of chinny himself. Okay, Edgar's taken a lot of shots, but it seems moving down to bantamweight, he took a lot of great shots against Pedro Munoz, and that was his first time cutting down to bantamweight as well, so this one, I would assume, is going to be better, even though he is 6 months older now compared to last time. That's also a ticking time bomb of Mother Nature. When's it going to say too much for Frankie Edgar? Cory Sandhagen, however, I think is just going to be a little bit too much for Frankie Edgar in this bout, in all honesty. And under 3 rounds, I don't see Sandhagen finishing him. I think the decision bet is the thing to do right now. A decision win for Cory Sandhagen, 30-27. Edgar's shooting for takedowns out of desperation from being tagged up on the feet. I don't see Sandhagen TKOing him. I see him going for one because he's just got an amazing one and he wants to really make a statement to earn himself a title shot. I just don't see him finding it. I see Edgar maybe getting him down a couple of times. Sandhagen pop him right back up to his feet every single time. Edgar's takedowns get a little bit slower as the fight goes on when he's not getting them as much. And Sandhagen just cruises to an easy win on significant strikes. Picking at the face of Frankie Edgar, picking at the body with front kicks. Eventually those front kicks are going to start turning into question mark kicks, as we saw against Marlon Moraes. And I think Frankie Edgar's going to take this L against Cory Sandhagen. I'm looking forward to it though, man. Cory Sandhagen, a younger guy, Edgar, I don't think, is improving. I feel like he's just sort of staying the same and maintaining at this point in his career. I feel like the same thing about Glover Teixeira. He's not really showing any new tricks. He's just sort of doing the same thing over and over, but getting a little bit more effective at doing it. The same can be said about Alistair Overeem, who's headlining this card. He's adding some new tricks in, don't get me wrong, but he's just seeing... We're seeing a little bit of a maturity in some of these older guys. They're a little bit more patient. They don't take the same kind of risks anymore. They're a little bit more slow and calculated in their approach. I just think Sandhagen's in his golden years right now, 28 years of age, soon to be 29 in April. If he gets this win here, he'll be in a great position. I honestly feel like the winner of this one shouldn't get a title shot, and we should just hold out a little bit, because the winner of Yan versus Sterling isn't going to be decided until 259 in March. So let's just chill a bit, you know? We're at the start of February. There's no rush for contenders. I know they're probably going to want to keep Petr Yan quite active. But right now, we've got Dillashaw coming back. We've got Aldo. Maybe they're going to do Dillashaw versus Aldo next. Garbrandt's calling out Aldo. In that case, does Dillashaw get an immediate title shot? I'm not too sure. The longer we hold back contenders at times, there's obviously sometimes there's too long you can hold back contenders, like in the lightweight division when McGregor was boxing Mayweather. However, at times when you hold back contenders, their names get bigger. The narrative gets bigger that they've been grinding for their shot. I think when Curtis Blaydes eventually gets his title shot, it will be bigger than it would have been originally, because of now he's going to have Derek Lewis on his resume. He might have another fight afterwards on his resume as well. It's just a nice little storyline. We saw this with Tony Ferguson. I feel like one of the reasons why Khabib and Ferguson's name was so big is because people saw them as those dominant guys, other than McGregor in the division, just working and looming at the top of the division, waiting for McGregor to get back. It kind of builds the hype overall, so when they eventually do get their title shot, it's bigger than expected. I think that's going to be the case here. Sandhagen gets the job done, calls out the title shot. If Yan wins, he could be in with a chance of getting it, but I don't see that happening. I think he's probably going to call out TJ Dillashaw, and they're probably going to try and make Aldo Garbrandt, Sandhagen Edgar winner versus Dillashaw, especially if it's Edgar. There's no way they're not giving Dillashaw that one to come back to. But if Sandhagen wins this one, I think he should be smart with his call out TJ again, because at least in that way, he called him out last time, he's called him out this time. If TJ doesn't accept it both times through, in both great performance from Cory Sandhagen, you can make the narrative that Sandhagen can start saying that TJ's ducking him. He used to train with TJ Dillashaw before, and apparently he says he used to get the better of TJ Dillashaw, and I've heard other people say that that's the reason why Dillashaw doesn't want to have the fight with Cory Sandhagen. So there could be that whole narrative that Sandhagen can be the guy in the division that people are ducking, like TJ Dillashaw. I think you should call him out after this one. It's a great call out. Other than that, I just think he's just too slick on the feet, man. The footwork's too good. The kicks are too good. Don't see Edgar winning this one, man. Sandhagen's got boxing as well if it gets into that sort of situation. Like, he does throw great kicks, and we saw that against Marlon Moraes, but I kind of feel like Sandhagen knew he had to do that to Marlon Moraes to beat him to the kick game first. Otherwise, Moraes is just going to start chewing at the legs. So he can adapt to certain situations. His boxing is also very crisp. He's got a great chin as well. You rarely ever see him rocked or flustered or dropped from a punch. I like his style, man. He never stays on the ground. He's got an insane output as well. When you think that Frankie Edgar's output is something that he's known for, he fires 3.7 strikes a minute. That's how many he lands per minute, sorry. 3.7. I know he throws a lot more that he misses, but still. Sandhagen's is almost fucking 7 a minute. That's more than 1 every 10 seconds right there, okay? 6.88 to 3.7 is their output per minute on strikes landed. I think Sandhagen's got it here. I don't see him slowing down in a 3-rounder. I think he cruises to a 30-27 win, just schooling Edgar on the feet for 3 rounds. I don't see Edgar getting finished, though. I think he's tough enough to stay in there, to stay true to his game plan. I just think that game plan's going to be failing all night against Sandhagen's footwork. And I think the game plan's going to be to dive for takedowns and get this to the ground immediately, because Aljo exposed the takedown defense of Sandhagen, when in reality Aljamain Sterling couldn't get the back of Sandhagen, couldn't get him down in the first place because Sandhagen was defending, so he had to go for the standing rear naked choke, which is something that I feel like Edgar's just a little bit too short to do, because even Aljamain was too short to get the standing rear naked choke against Sandhagen. He had to stick his toes in the cage and climb up with the right foot and then tuck in the body lock to get it. So, you know, that happened. I don't see Edgar climbing up the cage. That's all. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Cory Sandhagen 3027. Goodbye. I'll see you later. Click that button up there. Toodle pip.